Don't you hate it when you're thinking about making a new wizard and you always come back to the same 5 spells of the 6 you get at level 1? Almost every wizard, and almost every table, and almost every campaign walks into session 1 with the same 5 spells that are basically required. The first one every wizard picks is Shield, because if you don't have Shield, you'll just fall over to a stray goblin arrow to your knee. Magic Missile, because it's guaranteeing some damage. You can focus on a single target or spread across a few comes in clutch. Sleep, because at level 1 is the only area effect control in the game that just turns the fight off. Detect Magic, because you can spend 10 minutes and have it up and running anytime the exploration starts to look a little bit magical. And Find Familiar, because every wizard should have a cute UAV to scout with. Finally, your area effect damage spell of choice, Burning Hands, Ice Knife, or Thunder Wave, when you just need to put some damage on a crowd. 5 spells everyone takes, 1 area effect flex spot. And it's not because wizard players are uncreative. It's because the level 1 wizard, mechanically, is in a strange spot. You've got no subclass yet. That's 2 more levels away in 5.5. So you don't have an identity to specialize toward. You've got a d6 hit die and no armor, which means you're the most fragile thing in the party, and you know it. You've got a bonus action that, frankly, you have nothing to do with, and you exist in the part of the wizard's career that's so famously underpowered, the community has a phrase for it. Week early, god tier late. So the optimal play, every time, is to bunker up, and then play very, very carefully until level 5, when Fireball finally arrives. You can stop apologizing for taking up a chair at the table. That's the problem the balanced 5e wizard is built to solve. Not by buffing your damage, not by handing you more hit points, by rebuilding the early game class around 4 ideas. That yes, you should be a specific kind of wizard from the moment you sit down. That yes, your spell choices should reflect the kind of wizard you actually are. That yes, your bonus action should do something. And no, the cost of being fragile should not also be the cost of rolling badly on a hit die. Let me walk you through how. I've changed 3 fundamental things that impact wizard players. The first one is to help brand new players talk about spells. I've relabeled spell levels to spell circles. First circle, second circle, and so on. It doesn't change any of the mechanics, but it clearly allows us, as a community, to separate what level is my character from what level is my spell. A concept every new player has shipped over. The second is how you gain hit points per level. The classic wizard rolls a d6, or takes 4 hit points when they level up. And let's be honest, everyone just takes the 4, because rolling a 1 on your hit die, as the squishiest class in the game, feels awful. And if you roll the d6, you'll get an average of 3.5 hit points, which is even less than 4. Balance 5e keeps the d6 hit die, but lets you roll a d4 plus a d2 when you level up to determine your hit point gain, which averages out to 4, with a minimum of 2, so you no longer have to allow the re-rolling of 1s on the d6. Because rolling dice is fun, and you shouldn't be punished half a hit point on average because you chose to roll on level up. It's a tiny change, and it's exactly the kind of quite unglamorous fix this whole project is built on. The wizard is supposed to be fragile, not punished for wanting to roll dice. The third is when classes get their subclasses. In Standard 5.5, every class waits until level 3 to choose a subclass. For a wizard, that means for the first 2 levels of your career, you're not an evoker or an illusionist or a necromancer, you're just a wizard. A generic one. Balance 5e splits the difference. Full casters, wizards, clerics, druids, sorcerers, bards, and warlocks get their subclasses at level 1. Everyone else still picks at level 3. The logic is simple. A caster subclass is their magical identity. At least half the reason you created the character is to be that specific kind of caster, and asking you to wait 2 levels to start being one was always a tax on flavor. You pick your arcane tradition at level 1, and your subclass features are now arrived at 1, 6, 10, and 14. You can be a real specialized wizard from the first die you roll. Now onto the wizard-specific changes. Every one of the 8 classic schools has a feature called School Savant, Abjuration Savant, Evocation Savant, and so on. It does 3 things. and together they completely change what it means to commit to a school. The first is rules as written, not really changed. Copying a spell of your own school into your spellbook costs half the gold and half the time. Specialists learn their specialties faster. That's fair enough, and good enough to keep. The second is the new mechanical teeth. When you cast a spell from your specialized school, your subclass, you get a bonus +1 to its attack rolls, ability checks, and +1 to its save DC. And it scales. It changes to +2 at level 10 and +3 at level 17. Think about what this means in play. Your high-level evoker isn't just throwing a fireball. They're throwing a fireball that's 3 full points harder to dodge than anyone else's on the planet. The Master Wizard of a school of magic is now, measurably, the best in the world at that magic. That's the fantasy D&D always promised, but the 5e never quite pulled off. But specialization has a price, and here's the third piece. Every time you level up and learn 2 of your new spells, one of them has to come from your school, your specialization, if one is available. You don't get to be an evoker who quietly stops learning evocation. The rules keep you honest. You want the mastery bonus, then you stay invested in the school to earn it. The reward and the constraint are in the same feature. You can't have one without the other. And the second price, much older design. Balance 5e brings back one of the oldest ideas in Dungeons & Dragons, opposition schools, straight out of the 2nd edition Player's Handbook. When you specialize, you don't just get good at one school, you lose access to others entirely. You physically cannot put these spells into your spellbook. Here's a breakdown for the 8 classic schools of magic. The Abjurer gives up transmutation and illusion. The Conjurer loses divination and evocation. The Enchanter can't touch evocation or necromancy. The Evoker loses enchantment and conjuration. The Necromancer gives up illusion and enchantment. The Transmuter loses abjuration and necromancy. The Diviner gets off the lightest of anyone. They only lose a single school, conjuration, and the illusionist pays the most of the 8, locked out of 3, necromancy, evocation, and abjuration. So why do this? Because it makes your subclass choice mean something, and have a flavor. In standard 5e, picking a school is pure upside, a little flavor, a couple of features, no real cost or constraints. Here, specialization is a genuine trade. You become the best in the world at your school, and in exchange, you close some doors forever. That tension, more power, less flexibility, is the entire reason the system feels like a decision, instead of the default. And it's the lever the whole class balances on. Because the one option that pays no opposition cost is also the one that gets no mastery bonus, and we'll get to that subclass. Let's talk about the Wizard's action economy pitfall, the bonus action. In 5.5e, the Wizard almost never has anything to do with it. You cast your big spell with your action, and then you just stand there. Turn after turn of wasted bonus actions. Balance 5e hands most of the schools something to do with it. 5 of the 8 get a thematic bonus action right at level 1, something that fits the flavor of their magic and gives them a real second thing to do on their turn. 3 schools don't get one, divination, evocation, and necromancy, and that's deliberate, not an oversight. Those 3 already have strong, distinctive level 1 identities. Pulling in a different direction and bolting on a bonus action onto them would have been power for power's sake. So let's actually walk the 8 and see what each one becomes. Abjurer, the Protector. Your magic blocks, wards, and banishes. At level 1, you can cast Blade Ward as a bonus action, number of times per rest equal to your proficiency bonus. Plus, you still get Arcane Ward, the pool of magical hit points layered over your own that recharges every time you cast an abjuration spell. You are the wizard who's generally hard to kill. Conjurer, the Summoner. You pull objects and creatures out of thin air. Your level 1 bonus action, Minor Conjuration, lets you summon a small non-magical object under 3 feet, under 10 pounds, into your hand or nearby. It sounds modest, right up until you realize it quietly solves about 40 problems a session. The Diviner, the Seer, the School of Foresight. It keeps the classic portent. At the start of each day, you roll a handful of d20s and set them aside. And later, you can swap one of those results in for any roll. yours or an enemy's. No bonus action here. Portent is one of the strongest level 1 features in the entire game. It doesn't need more. Enchanter. The Charmer. You bend minds, your bonus action, Hypnotic Gaze, locks down a single creature within 5 feet. Charmed, incapacitated, speed drops to 0. And lets you keep it pinned turn after turn, with your bonus action. You're a 1 wizard, crowd control department. Evocation. The Artillery. Acid, Fire, Lightning, Cold, Thunder, Force. The big numbers, no level 1 bonus action, because Evocation's identity is the blasting. And it keeps sculpt spells, so when you drop that fireball, you can carve out pockets of safety and your allies walk away untouched. The evoker never hits their own party. Illusionist. The Deceiver. The most restricted school of the 8, and arguably the most creative. Improved Minor Illusion lets you cast Minor Illusion as a bonus action, create both a sound and an image in a single casting with no spoken opponent, and far more range. In the right hands is the most flexible cantrip in the game. Necromancy. The Reaper. Life, death, and everything that should have stayed buried. No bonus action, instead Grim Harvest. Every time you damage a creature with a non-cantrip spell, you drain a little life back into yourself. More of it's a necromancy spell. The necromancer doesn't get a bonus action, but they do gain access to inflict wounds at level 1. They get to be very, very hard to wear down. Transmuter. The Shaper. You change what things are. Minor Alchemy lets you cast all transmutation cantrips as bonus actions, which quietly makes you the most action-efficient cantrip user of the 8. Beyond the 8 schools sits 5 special traditions, the ones adapted from D&D's other official books, and there's one rule that now applies to all 5. Every one of them carries 3 opposition schools. The logic follows everything we've covered. These traditions hand you tools the basic schools don't get, so they pay the steepest specialization cost in the book. Quickly, who they are. The Bladesinger is the Elven War Mage, light, fast, a blade in one hand and a spell in the other. It gives up enchantment, necromancy, and divination. Chronergy is time magic, borrowing rolls, stalling initiative, bending the action economy itself. It loses access to abjuration, conjuration, and illusion. Graviturgy is a sibling. Gravity, mass, dragging enemies across the battlefield. It gives up abjuration, divination, and enchantment. The Order of Scribes turns your spellbook into a living, talking companion that fights at your side. It loses evocation, necromancy, and illusion. And the War Mage bends offense and defense, a reaction, shield, and an initiative boost right at level 1, trading away enchantment, transmutation, and illusion. 5 very different flavors, 1 shared price. If you want the fancy toys, you commit harder than anyone else, which leaves exactly 1 option for the wizard who doesn't want to commit at all. This is the new one, and it is only possible if you embrace the idea of opposition schools. It's simply called the Mage, and it's also from 2nd edition. And it's the wizard who refuses to specialize. No school, no Savant Feature, and no mastery bonus. And crucially, no opposition schools. The Mage is the only wizard subclass who keeps the entire spell list, every school, forever. What do you get instead of mastery? Well, you get breadth, and a lot of it. At level 1, wider learning, you add 3 spells to your spellbook every level, instead of just 2. Your book just grows faster. Then your preparation scales up harder. At level 6, you can prepare twice your intelligence modifier plus your wizard level in spells, and later thrice your intelligence modifier. And you recover more often, with extra arcane recovery per day at level 10. The Mage isn't the best at any one school. The Mage is the wizard who has the right spell for every situation, prepared and ready, because they've learned most of them. Here's the design language I'd put on it. The Mage is the base wizard Deluxe. It's the same type of design as the Lore Bard or the Berserker Barbarian, a subclass whose entire identity is the core class, but more of it. No gimmick, it just leans all the way into what the class already does best, and it does real balance work too. The Mage is the generalist baseline, no opposition cost, no mastery bonus, and every specialist in the book, in a sense, measured against it. The specialists trade flexibility for focus power. The mage keeps the flexibility and gives up the focus. That's the whole choice, expressed in a single class. And it finally gives the I just want to be a wizard player a real supported way to do exactly that. So that's the Balanced Wizard. Same brilliant, fragile genius you already loved. But now you can decide what flavor you want to be from level 1. You're measurably the best in the world at the school you choose. You finally have something to do with your bonus action, and you pay an honest price for all that power. And if commitment isn't your thing, the mage is right there waiting. So go forth, describe your spellbook, pick your speciality, or not, and never, ever let those pale wannabe magic users, the sorcerer and the warlock, forget that you, unlike some people, actually earn your right to magic.